Explanation of viddy or witty in local pronunciation as well as the word hyang, which is usually juxtaposed. We can know that the word refers to the original teachings of the archipelago Nusantara, Indonesia. In this case we refer to the original beliefs of the Balinese people. Let's try to re-examine the word. 3. True knowledge is that, if our assumptions are not Hindu or Buddhist, we will refer to pre-Buddhist and Hindu teachings. Teachings are philosophies to belief that have been considered the basis of Buddhism and Hinduism, namely Brahmanism and even Jainism. Is that Brahmanism? Brahmanism is a pioneer of Hinduism and Buddhism. This religion developed in northern India among the Aryan people who came to India some 8,000 years ago. The main characteristic of this religion is the cycle between death and rebirth, reincarnation, as well as the division of humans into 4 different castes. This caste in Sanskrit is called a color. There is a similarity with the philosophy of Balinese teachings. Knowledge of Brahmanism in its early stages comes from the scriptures that are still primitive and originally composed of oral literature and date between 1500 BC and 400 BC. First of all, there are the so-called Empat Veda or Katar Veda, Veda meaning is knowledge, which dates from 1500 to 800 BC. After that there are the Brahman Texts, approximately 1000 BC 600 BC. These texts are a series of various descriptions contained in the texts, rites and customs found in the 4 Vedas and specially composed for the Brahmins or Panditas. Then there are the texts called the Upanishads, 800 BC 500 BC. This book discusses the pantheistic philosophy of the divine nature and the end of man. Then there are the Sutras, 600 BC 400 BC, which are guidelines for the implementation of rituals and customs. Among them are the Grihya Sutra, the manual for household rituals, and the Dharma Sutra. The note here explains it is not the Dharma Sutra or the Dhammapada of the Buddha. These 2 books reflect the practical and popular side of Brahmanism, in which the Brahmana and Upanishad books show its philosophical and speculative side. Still close to these law books there is a famous book called Manawa Dharma Sastra, and in English it is often called The Laws of Manu or the Code of Manu. It is possible that this Manu book dates from the 5th century BC. These books, together with the 2 sacred writings, namely, Ramayana and Mahabharata, are the most important writings in the literary universe of Brahmanism. Author's note. For an explanation of Ramayana and Mahabharata, occurring in the archipelago by the author will be presented in a different book. Early belief in Brahmanism or belief in Vedic religion in the true Vedic era, can be said to be quite simple. This includes the worship of many deities, large and small, who are personifications of natural powers. The main ones are Varuna, the god of the all-encompassing heavens, creator and owner of everything that exists and the defender of the moral law called Surya, or the sun god, Savitri the luminary, and Vishnu, who is said to divide the earth into 3 parts and provide fertile fields to mankind. God of space, Indra. Indra was armed with Vajra, which was lightning. Rudra, later in Indian Hinduism became known as Shiva, who was blessed, the god of hurricanes and a barrier to those who were evil but friend of good people. Agni, god of fire. In the discussion of Brahmanism in the Kalasan inscription notes about the word 3 true knowledge, and not originating from Hindu India or Buddhism, here the author assumes a subjective assumption regarding its relation to the original teaching philosophy of the archipelago, in this case the Balinese belief as follows. In religious life in Bali, Lord Brahma can never be released from his religious breath. The depiction of Lord Brahma is believed to be the main god, the ruler and protector of the south, armed with a gada, with a goose in spirit, has Sakti Dui Saraswati, all red attributes. In worship in a traditional village environment, he is worshipped in a temple called Puradesa or Pura Bail Aging, which where in this temple there will be a building made of bricks as a tribute to him. Meanwhile in Bali region, the worship of Lord Brahma is at Pura Luhur Andakasa. Examples of the mention of Dewa Dewa in Balinese rituals that mention the word name of God as written above are contained in the mantra sentence in the ritual of worship. Mantram or prayer of praise addressed to Lord Brahma. As the creator is called Brahma Stawa. 1. Worship you Lord Agni. Worship you Lord of the day. Worship to you Lord Isa, who witnessed all kinds of sacrifices. 2. Lord Agni has 3 appearances, Brahma, and Vishnu. Maheshwara, the cause of tranquility, nourishment and protection. 3. His favor is generated in the world. Good luck, very pleasant to see, any action will be successful without a doubt. 4. Lord Brahma, the God of all beings, he who is most glorious, he who bestows grace to the Guru, he who is born of the lotus flower, who has 4 faces, that is the perfect Brahman. 5. Lord Agni, the silencer of all evil, born of the golden seed, the body of the universe, and is the highest bliss. The name of the god listed in the mantra sentence above proves that the name of the god already exists, and it is also known that the teachings of Indian Hinduism, with no record of the missionaries spreading Hinduism, so the names of deities above are names that already existed before Hinduism in India. Author's note. For the spread of Hinduism in different books. Conclusion on the sentence. The word Vidivitravadhare has the root word Vidideva ttri vidhare 3 right knowledge. He is Tara who is the star only guiding for direction in the world and realm of the gods are. Tiga Vidi ttri vidhare or Tiga Vidai is identical to Tiga Diwa, which depicts the 3 knowledges of gods as pathways, namely Diwa Agni, Diwa Isa, Diwa Hari. Wisanu, in Balinese tradition. Trimurti are the 3 powers of Brahman, Sanghyang Widi, the title of God in Balinese belief, in creating, maintaining, fusing nature and its contents. Trimurti consists of 3, namely, Lord Brahma, means, creator Utpatthi, Sakti, Dui Saraswati who is the goddess of science weapons. Bow, symbol, A, color, red, Lord Vishnu, function, preserver, Stiti, Sakti, Dui Lakshmi or Shri, weapon, disc, symbol, U, color, black, Lord Shiva. Function, destroyer Pralina, Sakti, goddess Durga, Uma, and Parvati, weapon, trident, symbol, M, color, multicolor. When the symbols of the 3 gods are combined, it will become Aum which pronounced Om, Oum, which is a sacred symbol. In the philosophy of Brahmanism the 3 right knowledge are implied as Lord Varuna, Dui Savitri, Lord Vishnu, Surya, or the sun god. The sky god Indra was later known as Shiva and the god Agni or the god of fire, which later appeared in the philosophy of Indian Hinduism, as Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. 3. In the translation of the 2nd stanza Kalasan inscription, it is also implied that the 5th stanza is written. A sacred building for Tara which is truly beautiful was ordered by the king's guru Sailendra, after obtaining the approval of Maharaja Daya Pankapana Panamkarana. We pay close attention to the word, ordered by, and after obtaining approval from. In this sentence there is an affirmation of a decision by 2 hierarchies of office, ordered to and after obtaining approval. The subordinate hierarchy is the ruling teacher, the upper hierarchy is the Maharaja who has given approval. For what is the word affirmation of the command that has been agreed upon? This is an affirmation of the commands that must be followed to be carried out by the inscription reader at the time the inscription is written and to the inscription reader at a later date after the inscription is written. The meaning. The affirmation of the hierarchical level that is made and stated as the affirmation of the commandments that must be carried out in the public at present and in the future, which explains that the treatment for this sacred building has also been carried out by its predecessors. We can understand from 2 subjects, the one who ruled as Guru, and the one who approved as Maharaja, in order to emphasize to his successor ruler to do the same, as did his previous ruler. Conclusion on sentences. A sacred building for Tara which is absolutely beautiful was ordered by the king of Sailendra's teacher, after obtaining the approval of Maharaja Daya Pankapana Panamkarana. It is a sacred building that is designated for Bhagavati Tara as an existing building and the treatment of respect has been done by its predecessors as well as by those who ruled when the inscription was written, and must also be done by the successors. By marked in the sentence affirming the order and approval of the ruler. So, the name, Sailendravamsa, was first encountered in the Kalasan inscription, is someone who has done the work of honoring the existing sacred buildings and ordered future generations to do it. 4. In the translation of the 6th stanza Kalasan inscription written, Maharaja Panamkarana built a sacred Tara building in honor of the teacher who has been running for 700 years. We look at the word build. Is the word build here worth it? Note the next sentence. a sacred Tara building in honor of a teacher who has been running for 700 years. On the interpretation of the word interpreted. Build. The author does not agree with this word because the word build does not appear in this sentence, for the word approach with the intention of establishing, building in Sanskrit as jagra, wake up or built. The word construct, if it is based in the full sentence translation description in stanza 6, will contradict a long description of more than one word, namely, a Tara shrine to honor the teacher that has been running for 700 years. A Tara sacred building to honor the teacher is the object sentence that is explained, which has been running for 700 years, is an adverbial sentence that describes the object. The verb to build, if it is interpreted as being or has just been awakened, will fail with the explanation of the verb that has been done and written by writing the adverb. Time. Long time. Has been running for 700 years. So an explanation that is impossible if the work that is being done at this time is given an explanation of the work that has been done in the past and is still being done to this day, let alone written in one complete sentence and not separated. The conclusion of the sentence in the 6th stanza on the Kalasan inscription is. The sentence clearly states that the holy building designated for Bhagavati Tara has already been. Exists, has existed, has been around for a long time since 700 years ago, with additional explanations for hundreds of tens and clear units. With the intention of affirming the treatment of the object that the perpetrator has done the job a long time ago and continuing the tradition of his predecessor. So the name, Sailendravamsa, was first encountered in the Kalasan inscription. It was someone who did not build a holy building for Bhagavati Tara. But that sacred building has been around since 700 years ago. 5. In the translation of the Kalasan inscription stanzas 7th and 8, it is written. 7. The village of Kalasa has been given to the Datta Samkhya after summoning the witnesses, people. The leading village apparatus are Pankura, Tavana, Tirapa. 8. Unsurpassed alms, Bura, is given to Samkhya. By a king like a lion. Rajasimha, by kings of the Sailendra dynasty and subsequent rulers. The word that has a thick sign of Kalasa village is a word that refers to the name of the village or place which is currently called Kalasan village. In this discussion, the community is obliged to care for sacred buildings. In the following discussion, we will find out about this in Sima terms, namely the community's per deacon land which is exempt from paying taxes and the community has the obligation to care for the sacred building. Description of the word Samkhya. Etymology. Samkhya, Samkhya, also referred to as Sankhya, Samkhya, or Sankhya, is a Sanskrit word which, depending on the context of the preceding and following sentences, means to reckon, count. Counting, deliberate, reason by numerical enumeration, relating to numbers, rational. Quote. In the context of ancient Indian philosophy, Samkhya refers to the understanding of philosophy in Hinduism based on systematic enumeration and rational examination. The word marked in bold Samkhya is the word written on the inscription, whereas in general writing and pronunciation for the present time is identical to the word Samkhya. Based in the literature study obtained by the author about the word Samkhya, it was detected from the philosophy of ancient Brahmanism, namely the main elements of theosophy in the Vedas in the formation of the philosophical Brahmanism, namely the 6 main elements of darshanas. 3 of which are Vedanta, Samkhya and Yoga. Brahmanism is sometimes considered synonymous with Hinduism. The early phase of Samkhya is known in the early Upanishads, around 800 to 700 BC, where the ascetic and monastic spirituality, sramana and yati, theosophy existed in India. The Indian scholars Bhattacharya and Potter concluded that combining proto-Samkhya ideas with a systematic methodology of reasoning, epistemology, underlies the concept of spiritual knowledge, vidya, jnana, viveka, making Samkhya a more developed, comprehensive philosophy. These ideas develop and are found in texts such as Chandogya Upanishad. Johnston in 1937, analyzing the origins of Samkhya against Hindu and Buddhist teachings, then wrote and concluded, the origin of Samkhya is in line with the individual analyses of the Brahmins and the early Upanishads. At first with a view to ensuring the effectiveness of the sacrificial rite and then to discover the meaning of salvation in the religious sense and the method for achieving it. It is found in the Kitab, the Kaushitaki Upanishad and the Chandogya Upanishad. the essence that is found, from the two main ideas of classical Samkhya. The meaning of Samkhya. Samkhya or Sankhya is one of the 6 astika of Hindu philosophy: Samkhya, Yoga, Nyaya, Vaisesika, Vedanta, Purva Mimamsa. It is most associated with yoga in Hindu philosophy, and it influenced other subsets of Indian philosophy. Samkhya is an enumerationist philosophy whose epistemology accepts 3 of the 6 pramanas, proofs, as the only reliable means of gaining knowledge. These include pratyaksa, perception, anumana, inference, and the word aptavakana, word testimony of reliable sources. Sometimes described as one of the rationalists in Indian philosophy, this ancient philosophy gives either exclusive or compelling reasons. Samkhya is a very dualist. Samkhya philosophy regards the universe as consisting of 2 realities: Purusa, consciousness, and Prakrti, matter. The jiva, living being, is to which the Purusa attaches to Prakrti in some form. This fusion, the Samkhya theosophical view, led to the emergence of buddhi, intellect, and ahankara, ego consciousness. The universe is described as one created by Purusa Prakrti entities infused with various permutations and combinations of various mentioned elements, senses, feelings, activities and thoughts. During a state of imbalance, one of the more constituents influences the other, creating forms of servitude, especially of the mind. The end of this imbalance, servitude, is called liberation, or kaivalya, in Samkhya's view. The existence of God or the Supreme Being was indirectly affirmed, not considered relevant by the Samkhya philosopher. Samkhya argues with the final cause of Ishvara, God. While Samkhya's view considers the Vedas to be a reliable source of knowledge, it is an atheist philosophy according to Paul Deussen and other scholars. The main difference between Samkhya and Yoga is that Yoga accepts a personal, but fundamentally inactive, God, or personal God. Gunas in his theory about Samkhya is quality, innate tendency. Guna, claiming, are of 3 kinds: best sattva, loving, enlightening, positive, and constructive. Raja is one of activity, chaotic, passionate, impulsive, potentially good or bad, and tamas being the qualities of darkness, ignorance, corruption, lethargy, negative. All of them, all forms of life and human beings. Some scholars agree on the meaning of these 3 types in the Samkhya, but in different proportions. This interaction of gunas defines the character of a person or thing, nature, and determines the progress of life. Samkhya in gunas theory is popularly discussed, developed and refined by various Indian philosophical schools, including Buddhism. Samkhya's philosophical treatises also influenced the development of various Hindu ethical theories. The author's conclusion about Samkhya that is linked to the Samkhya philosophy that exists today is: the word Samkhya written on the inscription is the main meaning of the teaching which is currently called Samkhya, namely the procession of truth-seeking rituals in the original teachings of the archipelago, not Hindu or Buddhist teachings, but become the source of the previous teachings, namely the Brahmanic Pulsifa. This form of visualization of the procession appears in statues at Borobudur. Note: for a discussion about this in the book Borobudur, not a temple, which was compiled by the author. Definition of data in the Sanskrit dictionary. Data. On, continuously, datapati. Sun, datapitana. Silence, silence. Datapatera. Silence, silence. Datatita. Silence, silence. Datataitaya. Silence, silence. Daddy. Better, better. Daditan. Silence, silence. The meaning of data samkhya can refer to a personal person or individual who carries out a ritual procession silently, meditating in silence or contemplation, leading to the theosophical philosophy as referred to in the above description of ethnicity, the universe, and its creatures. Bura, Daksinium Atula, Data Samkhya, Rajasimhana Sailendrarajabupare Anaparapalyar Santatya. An incomparable meaning of almsgiving, Bura, was given to the Samkhya, referring to Johnston's 1937 work, analyzing the origins of Samkhya against Hindu and Buddhist teachings, then writing and concluding, the origins of Samkhya are in line with the individual analysis of the Brahmins and the early Upanishads, initially with a view to ensuring the effectiveness of the sacrificial rite and then to discover the meaning of salvation in the religious sense and method for achieve that. It is found in the Kitab, the Kaushitaki Upanishad and the Chandogya Upanishad, the essence that is found from the two main ideas of classical Samkhya. We get a conclusion from the meaning of the essence found from the two main ideas of the classical Samkhya, the incomparable, Bura, almsgiving relation given to the Samkhya, namely the sacrificial rites of the Brahmins. Here the author will explain that the explanation of alms, that is the ritual of sacrifice, is not found on Buddhist teachings as scientists conclude about sacrificial worship on Buddhist teachings below. In the Buddha Vinaya Pitaka of the Mahavagga, I.245, the part of the Buddha's sage's name. The names of the Vedic sages were Athako, Vamako, Vamadevo, Vesamito, Yamatagi, Angiraso, Bharadvaho, Vasetho, Kasapo, and Bagu, by some Brahmins who were introduced to animal sacrifice. This section of the Vinaya Pitaka Anguttara Nikaya, the Panchaka Nipata, says that it was converted from the Vedas. It is true that Buddhist philosophy rejects the Brahman philosophy of introducing animal sacrifice to be recorded in the Buddhist view. 5. In the translation of the 11th verse Kalasan inscription, it is written 11. Anena punyena viharayena praditya jata, g arthavibhagavijna. Bhavantu sarv tribhavopapana janajananam anyusasanajna. 11. Well, by giving viharayena, all the bhavantu of holy knowledge, the law of cause and effect, and birth in the three worlds, can be understood. Note. Viharayena, place of ascetic worship. Vihara, monastery, place of meditation. Vihara, vihasa, place of meditation. Vihantan, monastery, place of worship. The definition of a place of worship here is a place of worship that is practiced by non-Buddhist or Hindu practitioners. Sangharama. Mahaviharya the Thera Arya, Vwana Kaka Phala, now published as Borobudur, is the naming of Dutch philologists who do not understand who our ancestors really are. The sentence above is the ancestral language of the archipelago nation which underlies Sanskrit. Reorganized by Panini, the first Pakistanis wrote about Sanskrit grammar entitled Astadhyayi, a grammar book of Sanskrit containing 3,959 grammar laws of Sanskrit written in the 5th century BC. It means that Panini did not make Sanskrit, he only composed what was already there. Sangharama is a place. Study, original Dharmak, in the past long before the 5th century BC. Maha Thupa. Maha or Mahe means great or great. Thupa is the beginning of the literacy of the word, stupa. Chinese pilgrims to the archipelago call this word, top. Arya is the Kakya, Saka clan, the ancestor of the Indonesian archipelago to advance earlier. Mahaviharya is a place of practice and spiritual contemplation, procession made big and majestic. Maha and Viharya combine to become Mahaviharya. The word, Vihara, is derived from this word. Theras are people who study or are already masters at original Dharmak teachings, are called Therans. Vwana Kaka Phala is a name. The building, literacy said Vwana. 3 stages of building form Vwana Chaka Phala as a description of the 3 planes of existence in this universe, not Kama, Rupa, Arupa Dhatu, the Indian version. Before that we first understand the meaning of the Upanishads. The Upanishads according to the philosopher Sarvapalli Radhakrishnan. Upanishad is the beginning of the book which includes the pra-Vedic clarification or Rigveda, incorporated in the group clarification on composition. The Upanishads in the Vedic period, 1500 BC, are the earliest philosophical composition in the world. To understand that the word, Viharayena, is a place of worship performed by non-Buddhist or Hindu practitioners, let us look at the word, Bhavantu, below. The word, Bhavantu, is the writing of the word on the Kalasan inscription, the literary study of the word that the author confined on the word, Bhavana, is included in the Upanishadic composition, the earliest philosophical composition in the world. Bhavana Upanishad, Sanskrit. Bhavana Upa_Nasid, IAST, Bhavana. Upanishad is a small medieval era Upanishad from Hinduism. Composed in Sanskrit, the text is classified as one of the Shakta Upanishads and is attached to the Atharvaveda. The Upanishads identify the human body as Srichakra Yantra and describe this theme, and its worship. The text of this text is also found entitled as Bhavanopanishad. In the Telugu language anthology of the 108 Upanishads of the Muktika canon, narrated by Rama for Hanuman, it is listed at number 84. The Upanishads describe the human body to be Sri Yantra, Sri Chakra, by mapping each part of the body for the chakras. This confirms that Shakti is the inner Atman, soul. The text is important for emphasis on Antaryaga, internal worship, as opposed to external rituals and offerings. The text presents non-dualistic ideas, presenting Dewey as the highest reality of the universe. McDaniel states that philosophy in this text, as in many Shakta Upanishads, is the syncretism of the Samkhya and Advaita Vedanta in Hindu philosophy, which is called the Shaktadvaitavada, literally, the non-dualistic path of Shakti. So the word, bhavantu, is the result of a search on the synonym for bhavana, as well as the philosophical meaning of the Bhavana Upanishad. The Upanishads describe the human body as asserting that Shakti is the Atman, soul. It can be concluded that the word bhavantu is not a theosophy or philosophy of Buddhist teachings. This is because in Buddhist philosophy, which rejects the understanding of Atman, soul, it is emphasized as explained below. The concept of Atman, soul, is rejected by Buddhism. Terms such as Atman, not self, and Shunyata, emptiness, are at the heart of all Buddhist traditions. The permanent transcendence of belief in a separate existence from self is an integral part of the enlightenment of Arhats. The Buddha did not accept the theory of the oneness soul or immanent identity in any way as not independent. In fact, according to the Buddha's statement in Kanda Samyutta 47, all thoughts about the definite self, whether the thinker is aware of it or not, are thoughts about the five aggregates or one of them. The word, bhavantu, we get from the word, bhavana, is included in the Upanishadic composition, the earliest philosophical composition in the world. McDaniel states that philosophy in this text, as in many Upanishadic Shaktas, is syncretism of the Samkhya. Larson, Bhattacharya and Potter scientists suggest it is possible that the earliest Samkhya doctrines found in the oldest Upanishads, 700 to 800 BC, provide a contextual basis for an influence Buddhist and Jainan doctrine. From the above explanation we can conclude that said bhavantu, which is written in the writing of the word on the Kalasan inscription, is the previous philosophy that underlies Buddhism and Hinduism and even the doctrine of Jainism. From this we can emphasize that the name, Sailendravamsa, was first encountered in the Kalasan inscription. Is someone who is not Buddhist or Hindu. 5. In the original sentence and the translation of the 12th verse Kalasan inscription is written 12. Karyanapanaamkarana Sriman. H. Abhiyakate Bhavinarpan. Buyo Buyo Vidivad Viharaparipalan Artham iti. 12. Karyanapanankarana is asked repeatedly for the noble kings to come to always protect, Abhiyakate, this important holy building, Viharaparipalan, according to the rules. Artham iti. Note. In the Sanskrit dictionary. Abhiyakate. Abaya. Attitude of courage. Kate. Kata. Heart, feeling. Buswell. Robert Jr., ed. 2013. Princeton Dictionary of Buddhism. Princeton, N.J. Princeton University Press. Let us examine the word, Abaya. In the search for Abaya's words, the author found Abaya's words, among others. Abaya was king of Upatisanuera, modern Sri Lanka, from 474 BC to 454 BC. He succeeded his father Panduvasdeva after being chosen by his brothers as young. The oldest of them to become the next king of Upatisanuera. National treasure of South Korea. 119. Buddha statue from c. 531. Gogriyo, right hand, denotes Abaya Mudra, whereas on the left is D. Viratamudra, generosity. There is said to be the word Abaya in naming the position of the image. The Abaya Mudra, attitude of courage, is a mudra attitude, which is a sign of assurance and security, dispelling fear and divine protection and happiness in many Indian religions. The right hand is upright, and the palm is facing outwards. It is one of the earliest mudras found depicted on a number of Hindu, Buddhist, and Jain images. Abaya Mudra represents protection, peace, goodness and elimination of fear. The Hindu god Nataraja depicted with the second right hand creates the Abaya Mudra, bestowing protection from both evil and ignorance to those who follow the truth of Dharma. In Theravada Buddhism, it is usually made with the right hand raised to shoulder level, the arms bent and the palm facing outward with the fingers straight and joined and the left hand hanging down while standing. In Thailand and Laos, this mudra is associated with Buddhist walking, often shown having both hands making a uniform double Abaya Mudra. The Abaya Mudra was probably used before the advent of Buddhism as a symbol of goodwill, proposing friendship when approaching strangers. In Gandharian art, it is present when performing the act of preaching. It was also used in China during the Northern Wei and Sui eras from the 4th and 7th. From the explanation above, we will find a conclusion about the word Abaya, including the use of the word Abaya on the name of the king of Upatissa New Era. In Sri Lanka, Abaya was the ruling king of 474 BC, the era of Buddhism in India around 500 BC. So it was only a few years later that it was impossible to think of the king as a Buddhist. In the beginning, the word Abaya associated with a meditation position was depicted in a number of Hindu, Buddhist, and Jain images. So it cannot be concluded that the word Abaya or Abaya only exists in Buddhism. Abaya Mudra was probably used before the emergence of Buddhism in use in China during Northern Wei and Sui. The conclusion of the word Abaya in the original sentence and the translation of the Kalasan inscription of the 12th stanza is that this sentence existed before Hindu and Buddhist teachings existed. Can be inferred from the name of the king who wore it. Findings of images that exist in Hindu, Buddhist and Jain teachings, and have been used in China before embracing Buddhism. For more details, the meaning of Abaya will be explained in the study of the Abhayagiri Vihara inscription. Continues on to section 6. By Santo Saba.